For 35 years, Curtis Sliwa has poured his heart and soul onto the New York City airwaves. He's been a friend during times of triumph and a comforting voice during times of tragedy. From his unique style to his large personality to his signature red beret, Curtis has made an impression, forming a lifelong bond with his listeners. From 1990 to today, Sliwa has been a regular presence on the New York media circuit. He's enjoyed success as a solo act and as a co-host, especially alongside former partner Ron Kuby. But the past 3 decades of radio entertainment almost didn't happen for the founder and leader of the Guardian Angels. In 1992, Curtis was kidnapped and shot by 2 gunmen after entering a stolen taxi. He managed to escape, leaping out the front window of the moving cab. Charges were filed against John A. Gotti, the son of the leader of the Gambino crime family. Today, the talk radio legend is still talking and selling his passion, knowledge, humor, and ideas. The only difference, he's focused on becoming New York City's next mayor. Curtis's lengthy track record of broadcasting success speaks for itself. He's worked for multiple outlets and tested the national syndication waters. But Curtis Sliwa's radio identity is and will forever be connected to 77 WABC. Please join us in welcoming the 2025 recipient of the News Talk Radio Lifetime Achievement Award, the one and only Curtis Sliwa.
I want to thank all of those here at Barrett Media for giving me an award for 35 years of conducting various talk radio programs over a wide spectrum of stations, but as was announced in the promo, predominantly at WABC, both the old and the new WABC. And there were at times where WABC, the acronym stood for Always Broadcasting Curtis. Because I love this thing of ours, talk radio. And I know that obviously the new genre is podcasts, but there's nothing that can replace the live interaction that you have with an audience, whether you do a show with callers or without callers or guests. It is what I grew up on. It is what I was weaned on at an age when, in the 60s, to be listening to talk radio, it was thought that you were like part of your grandfather's generation or grandmother's generation. You were old. You were a fuddy-duddy. You know, everybody was into free-form music at that time. I listened, obviously, WNEW-FM, Allison Steele, The Nightbird, a whole host of new-form DJs that were coming on and playing cuts from that era of peace, love, and happiness, free love, and maybe the best music that has ever been produced. But as much as I would listen to that, because that was the listenership of my peer group, I was always attracted back to talk radio. And some of the greatest talk radio hosts of all time had such a particular significant effect on my listening habits, as I know they probably did to many of you, and then eventually to my opportunity to conduct talk radio. So I can remember listening in the wee hours of the morning, going from listening to a Yankees game on the West Coast and hiding my Sony little portable radio underneath the pillow so that my mom and dad would not catch me listening at 2, 3 in the morning. But I mostly listened on WMCA, which was the big talker at that time. R. Peter Strauss, his family owned that, to Long John Nebel and Candy Jones. Long John Nebel and Candy Jones was theater of the mind. In fact, it was done in a manner in which I thought that Candy Jones was a CIA agent. And he conducted such great interviews that I remember as a kid listening, and there was a guy who had written a book about how he had dug a hole from Bayonne, New Jersey, near the old Standard Oil refinery, right through the core of the earth, and came out in what we called then Peking, China. And Long John Nebel made it very plausible. Every time the author would take a few twists and turns, Lon John would get him back on track. And this is the kind of talk radio that really mesmerized me because it's something you wanted to hear late at night. And years and years and years later, Art Bell, I would have confrontations with. I was a local host at WABC right before he came on, and he was on almost every station across the nation. If you ever drove from the East Coast to the West Coast, it was Art Bell, Art Bell, Art Bell. I called him the Looney Kazoonie from Parts Unknown. And he, in a sit-down I had with him, said he was inspired by Long John Neville and Candy Jones, having listened from a rooftop in Paterson, New Jersey, to his little portable Sony radio. And then there were the titans of the business who never properly get their due because there are many in talk radio like myself that have benefited from them paving the way. I call him the king of talk radio, Bob Grant. This was a guy who not only was on the cutting edge politically of what we would call now political incorrect statements and positions that he would take, but he was the consummate entertainer. He understood that you had to entertain the audience. There's nobody who ever did it better than Bob Grant. And I remember I was oftentimes a guest on his show. It was required listening in the afternoon, his opening monologue, because there were no podcasts. There was no way to recover the broadcast back then. And his opening monologue, the entire region would just stop whatever they were doing to see what Bob would probably be talking about that day. But when you're a guest, it's different than when you're a host. And the opportunity came up for me to host a program at WABC based on the recommendation of Bob Grant, who always loved to take his listeners on cruises 8 times a year. My father was a merchant seaman. I hated the ocean. I went on one cruise with Ron Kuby, my partner, whose mommy was a commie, and I swore I would never do that again. But that provided opportunities, Bob Grant, for people who never would have had an opportunity to host their own program. And the suits, the decision makers, they didn't like how I sounded. I had the New York vernacular. I was talking about issues that generally you don't necessarily hear talked about on talk radio. And I remember when he returned from the cruise and he told me all the complaints that came from the big suits, the big mockers, the decision makers. He told them, because his ratings were astronomical, you need Curtis Sliwa as part of your lineup because he knows where everyone's bones are buried and who buried them. And I will take that statement to my grave. I would never have had a 35-year career in talk radio if not for Bob Grant paving the way for me and so many others. He actually looked to elevate personalities and give them an opportunity. And there were alumni all throughout the country who could trace their opportunities to having substituted for Bob Grant. There was Barry Gray, middays at WMCA, phenomenal talent with a phenomenal history. And, of course, the wordsmith at night, Barry Farber, who came up with that classic statement that I use on the campaign continually, like 2 scorpions in a brandy glass. And then there were the eccentric types. There was, I can never forget, she was classic. She would come on off the number 7 train like a bag lady, Lynn Samuels. Eclectic, just a personality and opinion you would never hear on talk radio. Became best friends with Matt Drudge, who loved talk radio. She was actually his phone screener on his weekend show that he walked away from. He had phenomenal ratings. He and I were also disciples of George Putnam, talkback over at KIEV in Los Angeles, where I spent a lot of time organizing Guardian Angels, and I would be a guest of George Putnam. And Matt Drudge would be a guest. He had not yet created the Drudge Report. He was just a devotee of talk radio. What an eclectic group of people. All of us so different in background and nature, and we were attracted to talk radio because it would stimulate your mind. It wasn't like FM. FM could be like a mood elevator, but it didn't stimulate you. AM, active-minded radio, talk radio, was something that I look forward to listening to as much as is humanly possible because it gave me focus, it gave me a direction, it gave me everything I needed to get through the day, and some of the titans out there who are no longer with us. So now I'm on the cusp of running for the mayoralty of the city of New York a second time. And I must say I was given a renewed opportunity at WABC by John and Margot Catsimatidis, who had rescued that iconic station from what was basically the execution list. At the time, Cumulus, second largest owner and operator of stations in America, had decided they didn't want to stay in the New York City market. We couldn't figure that out. They got rid of WPLJ, the other iconic station in their fold, classic FM station. Before that, Nash, the country western station. And then we knew we were on the chopping block. We knew it was just a matter of time before we would all have to learn Cantonese or Mandarin or Yiddish or Russian, because some foreign language entity would buy the big stick. Can you imagine the most iconic call letters in all of talk radio, WABC, would go black and be no more? And John and Margot and the general manager, Chad Lopez, rescued us right at the time of the lockdown and pandemic. And I remember how difficult it was, but we all came into the studio. We did our broadcasts. We came through Penn Station. It was one of the most dangerous times that our city had ever faced because nobody knew what was going on. Talk radio became a lifeline to a lot of people. And I want to personally thank my colleague, Sid Rosenberg, who just by sheer fortitude came back from the grave, and I mean the radio grave. He had been exiled from New York City. He was persona non grata. He was told, hey, get a job down in Florida, wait for the Bluebird special, and be lucky if you would actually make it to a doctor's office and then end up in a graveyard somewhere. Brought back to WABC, joined with the great Bernard McGurk, who died far too early, and then was given an opportunity of his own, something he dreamed about, and has become the #1 morning talk show host in America with WABC, the #1 talk radio station in America. And I was proud that I could be a part of the revitalization, the re-energizing, and basically the rechristening of such a great station that has meant so much to me. Today I'm joined by my wife, Nancy, who I must share with you a subject. I was one of the masters of doing live reads, which for a while in talk radio was imperative. No tiki, no washi, no talkie. That's why they call it commercial radio. I would tell many of my colleagues, if you can't sell products, that's what I learned from Long John Neville. He was a master of being able to sell almost anything. But the live read was an imperative, and you had to sort of lure people in so they wouldn't just go up and down on the dial. And I had a unique knack of being able to tell a little bit of a narrative, a story, and then get you involved in a commercial, a service, a product that you didn't even know was coming. And I prided myself on that. And at the time of the old WABC, I was doing 2 shifts, 12 to 3. And then I would come back, a break. Savage was on. And then I finished out drive time 5 to 6. I would have 7 live reads in that hour. Premium money was brought in. I also had, at the time, Crohn's disease. I had gone from 220 pounds down to 140 pounds, and I was dying. Anybody who saw me would see I was dying. I remember one day in between shifts, I went into my office, and I was projectile vomiting, and they called my wife, Nancy, and she came to my rescue and was prepared to take me home. And our program director at that time actually looked down at me. Curtis, you think you could get another hour in? We got 7 live reads. My wife looked at him incredulously, Nancy, and said, he's dying. Do you see that he's dying? I'm just asking for 1 hour. And our news guy now in the mornings, Noam, was the news guy, and he substituted for me. Nancy took me home. Margot Catsimatidis was able to get me into Columbia Presbyterian to see experts along with John Catsimatidis. And after an 8-hour operation, it really saved my life and got me back on track to give me the opportunity I'm doing today. One thing I can pledge to all of you and to Barrett Media, which once again has put this thing of ours into focus and put it on a pedestal. When I'm mayor, and I will be mayor as of January 1st of 2026, don't let any information out there bamboozle you. I am the Republican candidate for mayor. If anybody was interested in running for mayor, they could have challenged me then. They didn't. I'm in the final run. We're in the 2-month sprint. I also have an independent line. It's called Protect Animals, first ever in the history of electoral politics. No-kill shelters and put animal abusers in jail. But when I'm mayor at City Hall, we're going to have a radio row in City Hall. We are going to restore to radio the tradition it originally had when Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia would take to the radio airwaves to speak to the public in New York City. During newspaper strikes, during emergencies, there was no TV at that time. Radio was the conduit. Radio was the connector. We've gone from that now into a TV generation, into a cable news generation. And I will promise to all of you that radio will have the premier place at City Hall. There will be a radio row. For those upcoming young men and women who want to explore this thing of ours, they'll have an opportunity to do it at City Hall. And most importantly, podcasters who really want to perfect their craft will have an opportunity to sit and discuss the issues with the mayor throughout the course of the week. Part of who I am is because of talk radio. The messaging that I've been able to send out that has resonated with the population is because of talk radio. It is the most intimate form of communication that has ever been created. You can't do it on TV. You can't do it in a podcast. What you can do it in is live talk radio. And I will always be grateful to everyone who has given me that opportunity. And to Barrett Media, who has kept this tradition alive, and to all of you who are devotees and maybe grew up just like I did with this precious thing of ours, talk radio, with that little radio in your hand that you just preserved until you fell asleep in the wee hours of the morning underneath your pillow. I will not let you down. I will make sure that radio is restored to the prominence it used to have. They've always predicted the death of radio. You look at WABC, how it's been resurrected, revived. Number one talk radio station in the nation that was on the ash heap. And I'm telling you, when I'm mayor of this city, you want to know news and information about what's happening in New York City? You better be listening to talk radio, because they will be first in the queue to let the entire region know. So thanks to all of you for keeping our traditions alive. Thanks for honoring people who have dedicated their lives to this thing of ours that is so precious. And just know, I carry with me the torch of talk radio and the titans who paved the way. From Long John Neville and Candy Jones, to George Putnam at KIEV in Los Angeles, to the king of talk radio, Bob Grant, to Barry Gray, to Barry Farber, to Lynn Samuels, and all those who have made this all possible. I owe everything to them. I owe everything who have given me that precious microphone that has allowed me to speak to millions of people over 35 years. Thanks for the award, Barrett Media. I won't let you down when I'm the mayor of the city of New York. Talk radio will once again be the premier way of disseminating news, information, and then commentary that follows, and I will subject myself to listening to the voters because they'll have access to me on talk radio. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Outstanding job.
Lincoln Chafee once said, "Trust is built with consistency." For news consumers in the nation's capital, that's exactly what they receive from WTOP. From its well-run website, to its exceptional YouTube delivery, to serving followers across X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, to its track record of #1 radio ratings and revenue success. Building a winning brand and strong community connection requires the right leadership. And WTOP has that in Julia Ziegler. She's risen from being an intern in 2002 to an executive producer of Talk Radio 3WT and Washington Post Radio in 2003. She's served as managing editor of federalnewsradio.com and as WTOP's digital news director. She's even helped create and produce award-winning podcasts. Getting to the top is hard enough. Staying there is even tougher. For WTOP, it's a regular occurrence. And that consistent excellence is a credit to the outstanding work done by the WTOP team under Julia's guidance. Please join us in welcoming the 2025 recipient of the Gold Standard in Programming Award, WTOP's Director of News and Programming, Julia Ziegler.
Wow, I didn't know that that intro was coming. I always get choked up at that kind of stuff. We've done a lot of good work at WTOP over the years, so I love seeing that. I am very honored and humbled to accept this award in front of all of you today. People I have a lot of respect for, and people I've learned a lot from over the years as well. Our industry is facing a lot of headwinds. People's media habits are changing, traditional revenue streams are declining, and I'm extremely grateful for events like this, where we get to come together and talk about solutions. As you might imagine, the leadership team at WTOP talks a lot about these solutions too. At the beginning of this year, we rolled out a 3-year vision plan to address our primary goals: growing audience and diversifying revenue streams. When we started this project, it was daunting and a bit overwhelming. But when I thought about what I could talk about today, I thought it might be helpful to share some of the guiding principles we used in creating this vision plan, in the hopes it might help some of you or inspire some of you in the room. First, be bold. Have the tough conversations. When we were developing this plan, there were no third rails. Everything was on the table and up for debate. We looked at every bit of programming across platforms and asked ourselves whether it still works for today's audience and whether it's going to work for the audiences of the future. Through these discussions, we decided to tweak our legacy traffic and weather benchmarks and our sports reports. We also changed spot placements and the length of stop sets. For the longest time, we operated as an audio-first newsroom. Whatever the radio station needed came first. Now, we're in the process of completely revamping how our reporters work on a daily basis to serve news consumers across all platforms. Second, words matter. We are not in the radio business. In WTOP's case, we are in the news business. Look, I love radio. I grew up on radio. I listened to KYW in the car with my parents every day. But radio is just one of the many delivery platforms we operate on today. And we sell ourselves short when we refer to ourselves solely as a radio station. In this vision plan, we doubled down on branding ourselves as a multi-platform news operation and meeting that next generation audience wherever they may be, whether that be on YouTube, social media, our website, our app. I want everyone in this room to know it's okay to both love radio and lift your other platforms up to meet it. Third, speaking of those digital platforms, we also made a commitment to invest in them. For us, that has meant reshaping job descriptions to include digital responsibilities. Our reporters, producers, and our on-air staff are all being asked to think digitally and contribute digitally on a daily basis. We know new audiences are more likely to experience our brand on a digital platform first, not on a radio frequency. Our commitment through this plan is to make sure that first digital interaction with the WTOP brand is one that makes them want to come back for more. Fourth, local matters. You've heard a lot of us over the last 2 days talk about that. We are focused on creating and delivering more impactful, more compelling local stories than ever before across platforms, radio, web, social media, you name it. We know how important local news is to consumers. They've told us in our research. In fact, the desire for local news has topped the need for traffic and weather. We're leaning into that. Finally, diversifying revenue streams. In order to survive, heritage radio stations must move beyond selling radio alone. For us, our next frontier is video. We're all in. We've spent the last year building our video output and training staff so our sales team can now go out and sell it. Whether your next frontier is video or something else, finding your something else is incredibly important. When I meet someone new and they find out I work at WTOP, I'm always curious how they will respond. From the Gen Xers and the Boomers, I usually get, you're the traffic and weather on the 8th station. From the Gen Zers, I get, my mom and dad listen to WTOP. With the changes that we're making, I want that younger crowd to know us because they consume WTOP. Whether that be on the radio, on our website, through a newsletter, or social media. That's how we ensure the success for years to come. My thanks to Jason and the entire Barrett News Media team for this award, but also for this great event. To Joel Oxley, my boss, for trusting me with this incredibly important job. To Ginny Hubbard and the entire Hubbard family for giving us the tools and support that we need to make these needed changes. And finally, to my team, none of what we do on a daily basis is possible without them. They are the ones that bring the vision to life each and every day. I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again and close with this. As an industry, we need to share more of our successes and learn from each other, regardless if we work for the same parent company, regardless if we're competitors or not. I'm happy to share what we're doing at WTOP with any and all of you. Just reach out. You know how to find me. Thank you.
Who doesn't love Julie Talbott? If you're in the room and raised your hand or were even thinking it, leave now. I'm not kidding. Get out. In all seriousness, the president of Premier Networks is known for her sharp business acumen, warm personality, and love and passion for the radio industry. Responsible for overseeing a roster of more than 100 radio programs and services since 2014, and having spent the past 26 years of her career working for Premier Networks, the powerful network has created some of the finest programming in radio under her watch, while blanketing the country in nearly every radio format. During the past year alone, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton celebrated the expansion of their program to 550 affiliates and counting. Michael Del Giorno saw his show welcome its 100th affiliate, despite being on the network for less than a year. After adding Ted Cruz's weekend show, that too gained traction, earning clearance from more than 200 radio stations. Even in the world of sports talk, Colin Cowherd's show grew to more than 400 affiliates. Hiring great on-air talent is one part of the job. Distributing and selling them is another. For Premier Networks, the power of its programming and the success of its business depends on great people, strong leadership, and valuable partnerships. And with Julie Talbott at the helm, it's easy to see why growth is a regular occurrence. Barrett Media is thrilled to welcome to the stage your 2025 recipient of the Gold Standard in Business Award, the president of Premier Networks, and soon-to-be Radio Hall of Famer, Julie Talbott.
Thank you, Jason, and the full Barrett team. And it truly is an honor to get this. Julie, I feel a little bit like you. It was like, I wasn't expecting that video. Wow. Anybody that has ever run a business, gold standard of business, knows that this is not something that you do alone. In fact, at Premier, our number one objective is to really have, from a nationwide standpoint, the number one talent in any given format. And how do we make that national talent sound very localized in every market? That's the challenge. And that is why we get to work with great programmers throughout the country and know that we're not doing this alone, that the colleagues that we work with are creative, they are open to ideas, and it's our responsibility to provide them with the great talent. In addition, I couldn't do it without a great team, and I did not pay them to all show up on this front row, but I'm daggone happy they're here. So thank each of you. I won't mention names, but you know how I feel about each and every one of you, and I could not do it alone. And I really, this is such an incredible industry. It is fun, it is tough, it is hard every day, but the passion that everybody has in this room and the passion that everyone has in this industry is incredible, and it motivates me every single day to get up and try to find new talent, to try to find new initiatives, to try to find new solutions for all of us to have a vibrant, ever-expanding business. No matter what the economy throws at us, I know that we're going to persevere through this and come out on top. So thank you very, very much. I am truly honored. Thank you.
John Catsimatidis is proof that the American dream is alive and well. The proud New Yorker has built an incredible family, a thriving business, a political campaign. He's become an author, and he has purchased and revived one of the crown jewels of talk radio, 77 WABC. Under John's leadership, WABC has regained its mojo. Ratings and revenue are soaring. Community connection has never been stronger. Local programming airs 7 days a week, and syndication has been added through Red Apple Audio Networks. To reap the rewards in any business, a leader must tackle tough issues when they arise, and John Catsimatidis has never backed down from a fight. He stood up for New York City, its people, and local businesses. And now he's leading the charge to save AM radio, spending his own money and calling on the public, politicians, and political allies to demand automakers offer the AM dial inside of new vehicles.
Talk radio and WABC and elsewhere around the country all took off, and it's become a meeting place for the American people. It's where we come together, we get information, making sure that these new electric vehicles include FM and AM as well as all the other new technology, I think is a real priority for the free flow of information in America.
Leadership is defined by 3 outcomes: direction, alignment, and commitment. 77 WABC and Red Apple Media are surging today because one man puts them into action on a daily basis. Please join us in welcoming the 2025 recipient of the Gold Standard in Leadership Award, John Catsimatidis.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jason Barrett, for presenting that to us. But it's not to me, it's to our whole WABC staff. We bought, Red Apple Group, we do almost $8 or $9 billion a year in business. WABC does a little under 20 million. But what company do I enjoy running the most? WABC. We took it from the basement in March of 2020 to almost Nielsen says we're number one AM station in the country. And it's about a community. We service the community of the New York's tri-state area, but we also talk about national issues. And that's what AM radio is for, and that's what radio is for. Our radio stations, all of ours, AM, FM, they're under attack. I got a phone call this morning that some of the leadership of the party, the Republican Party, was bought already, bought and sold by Elon Musk. Well, electric cars. Why? Well, we're going to find out shortly. But I think it's your duties out there. You guys run stations all over the country, every city. Your responsibility is to find out the truth and deliver the truth to the people. That's what radio is all about. Electric cars trying to close us down? Well, we ran the fight, and my crew here has a couple of ads. The New York Post, we work very closely with them. It's the number 4 newspaper in the country, wide distribution, and we ran ads. I don't know if it's up there on the in the New York Post. Let's see. On AM radio, but it's AM and FM because we're all under attack. And everybody out there has to tell their listeners about it. You can't allow Elon Musk to, and I haven't talked to the president today about it yet. You can't allow Elon Musk to write a check and buy our Congress. Speak out. And that's what it's about. And that's what I enjoy. Me and Rita Cosby are on at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock every day. And that's what I enjoy. No matter how hard I work, from 6 in the morning, 8 in the morning, all the way at 5 o'clock, I go from the 5th floor where our corporate office is to the 2nd floor where our WABC studios are. And guess what? I get energized. And I want all of you to be energized and deliver the truth to your community. Always tell the truth. And thank you, Jason Barrett, for the award. And thank you all. And the only way you can say thank you is go out there and fight for our country. Thank you so much.